Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome back to the shed. Right, I've got something to share with you. I was on Skeptic Haven probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago now, 4 weeks ago maybe, and I never put it onto my channel, so I'm going to do it today. So that's what I thought I'd do. And also, for you that don't know, I did myself a bit of a song. I'm going to see if I can get it to play on here. And listen to this song I did, because I'm always in my shed. So here's my song. I think I can get it to play. Here we go.
Late nights, thoughts roam free in the shed. In the shed, Paul is pondering religion. Is it true? He's wondering. Virgin birth back from the dead. Questions swimming in his head. Worldwide flood, Noah's Ark. Big boat, but it's quite stark. Penguins, koalas, and kangaroos. Were they packed 2 by 2? Is it real? Is it myth? In the darkness, Paul sits. Answers hard to pin down. Seeking truth in this small town. Stories told since days of old. Miracles in the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe? Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free in the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game. Finding peace or staying the same. Worldwide flood, Noah's Ark. Big boat, but it's quite stark. Penguins, koalas, and kangaroos. Were they packed 2 by 2? Is it real? Is it myth? In the darkness, Paul sits. Answers hard to pin down. Seeking truth in this small town. Seeking truth in this small town. Stories told since days of old. Miracles and the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe? Paul's heart on his sleeve. Stories told since days of old. Miracles and the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe? Paul's heart on his sleeve. Stories told since days of old. Miracles and the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe? Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free. In the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game. Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free. In the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game. Finding peace or staying the same. Late nights, thoughts roam free. In the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game. Finding peace or staying the same. Books and questions scattered around. Silence speaks without a sound. Answers come in whispers slight. In the quiet of the night.
There we go. That was a little AI song that I created. Oh,
In the shed, Paul is pondering.
Right, that's better. Just keeps playing on a loop. Right, so let's get down to what we're actually here for today, which is to watch the Skeptic, when I was on Skeptic Haven call-in show. If you're not subscribed to Skeptic Haven, just put Skeptic Haven in your search bar and they'll come up, and subscribe to them. I haven't sussed out how to put the link in the description yet. I'm useless with computers, or I would have done that. Anyway, let's just get straight into it. I'll add this to the stream, and then we'll let you watch that. Here we go. Adding it now. I'm going to shoot off and you can watch it.
Are we going on yet, producer Wes? Oops. I guess we're on now. Welcome to Let's Talk, a call-in show on the Skeptic Haven channel. Let's Talk is a safe place for atheists, those questioning or leaving religion, and anyone that wants to ask questions and have respectful discussions. From the U.S., call us at 984-789-4787. And from outside the U.S., call in from your computer using the URL on the screen. Now let's get on with the show.
But first, make sure you are subbed and like the video. Okay, producer Wes, let's start the show.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is actual footage behind the scenes that Paul and I were having right before this. No. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks, for being here for an episode of The Global Atheist, a special episode where we are going to be taking some calls. We are a little bit late, and it is entirely my fault. So feel free to call in at 984-789-4787 and yell at me. Tell me how to use a clock. I struggle with that, but that's okay, because that's not the only thing that people struggle with. People struggle with lots of things, like, for instance, density and buoyancy, and I've brought somebody here today, a wonderful, wonderful friend of the channel, regular now on here, Paul Kamish. What is up, brother?
The sky is up, SR. That's all. That's
That's true, man. I don't know. I'm hearing stuff. Okay. Look, recently, I don't know if you've heard this, man. Let's call her an intellectual, somebody that is, well high up in the levels of academia. You may have heard of her, Candace Owens. Has recently started saying that maybe there's something to this flat earthy stuff. Like, should I be taking it seriously? Should I, man? Should I investigate it further? Is there something more to this topic here?
There's no harm in investigating it. I mean, the thing with flat Earth, one of the main things about it is it does give us that have never really looked at the shape of the Earth and really never given it a second thought. It does give you a better understanding of the Earth that we live on.
Right.
I mean, the distance between the Earth and the Moon when it comes to gravity, how gravity works. It gives you so much information on how the world actually works. But everything you get from flat earthers, it sounds good when it's put in that one argument there, but when you put all of it together, it doesn't work. The only one that does work is the globe. Yeah. Everything all fits together like a jigsaw puzzle. But with the flat Earth arguments, is this bit sounds good and this bit sounds good, but this bit contradicts this bit. It just doesn't work. It's ridiculous.
And you know what? The way you're describing it right there, Paul, it sounds. There's something else that comes to my mind that kind of seems to map onto, and it's this belief in God thing, where there's a bit of it here that seems to be okay. It's like, no, hey, God really loves you, actually. Like, God super, super duper cares about you. And it's like, okay, yeah. But then you put it with
if you don't follow him.
See, that's the piece. Yes. That's the piece. It's like, hey, if you don't listen, though, I'm gonna torture you.
I'm gonna torture you. I'm gonna burn you to death. Well, not to death. I'm gonna burn you forever, for eternity.
It doesn't have that. I love you. It doesn't have that fitty kind of feel to it. So we're here to take calls on those things as well as many other things, because we are good skeptics here, and we want to talk about a lot of these silly claims that have been thrown around lately. Are there any silly claims you have come across lately, Paul, that you just want to get out there, get off your chest, and just kind of tell people this is wrong? Well,
the main one is the flat Earth. I think that is the most ridiculous one, because it doesn't just stop at the flat Earth. If you believe the Earth is flat, you also have to believe that space is fake. We've already discussed gravity has to be fake. The moon landings are fake. Everything becomes fake. when it comes to flat Earth. So I think that's the biggest one for me at the moment. But I was having a discussion yesterday with a friend of mine when he was talking about UFOs. He was saying UFOs are real, and I went, "Well, yes, there are. They're unidentified flying objects, of
Right.
course. That's real.
Okay.
But the assumption that it's aliens from another planet, that bit I do not believe."
Right.
Why don't you believe that? And I said, well, because we can look out into the universe, we can see X amount of thousands of light years into the universe, and we know there's nothing there. So if anybody's coming to visit us, they're way further than that. So it's, if they're traveling at the speed of light, it's going to take them several, a couple of thousand light years. I don't know where the closest planet would be. So at the speed of light, it's going to take them a couple of thousand light years to get here. So they must be going a greater speed than that to get here, even if they were to get here in 5 years.
Right.
The speed they'd be traveling at would be astronomical. So no, I don't.
Yeah. And it's I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but so far we're still in the camp of saying like speed of light is as fast as it gets. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And like
you've got to make something else up to explain how they're doing it. You come up with like something like wormholes. Well, what's a wormhole? Apart from seeing it on a film, I've got no idea what a wormhole is. He also said one of the things he come up with, well, what about anti-gravity? And I went, right, how does that make us go faster than the speed of light? I said, anti-gravity means anti-gravity just means you can float. It doesn't mean you can travel faster than the speed of light. So
I don't know. Maybe there's something to it, or throw some electromagnetism in there. I don't know, man.
They are very interesting topics, and I do enjoy listening to people discussing these things. But no, I don't believe them for 1 second.
I had a friend of mine, because a few months ago, I don't know if anybody remembers, there was a big hullabaloo. I'm pretty sure that's the word. In the Mexican like Congress Parliament thing, and because this guy came in and was like, I've actually got alien bodies, and like presented these two little things. That was a real fun conversation, because the guy started out with like, yeah, did you know that they brought some alien corpses into like the Mexican government to have a hearing on it? And I was like, well, I do actually know about this story, and I think the way that you're presenting it is not entirely accurate. And he was like, well, I mean, like, they're probably not, man. Like, yeah, they're probably not. But like he said they were, and he had
them,
information. And I was like, that's so. It was a moment for me where I felt like I got to see a little bit of kind of that inner working of like cognitive dissonance, where, and it's just this thing that we all do. We're all prone to it. It's not like pointing at any particular group and saying like, they're bad or anything. No, we all do this. But it was
we all have it to a certain degree, but you've got to try and be aware that you've got it. And instead of jumping straight to the assumption that this must be right, you need to pause for a minute, take a step back, have a look, see if there's any other evidence for what this person's saying.
Right.
And the evidence actually is convincing on its own anyway. Just because somebody says something, that alone is convincing.
And like I find myself now doing this so much more, which, adds some time to my day for sure, adds some workload on me personally, but I think it's the right thing to do. I hear a claim. Somebody says, this literally happened not more than a week ago. A couple of buddies and I are in a group chat. One of the buddies said, oh my God, did you hear about this? And sent an article. And a couple of people were like, oh yeah, let me tell you I got thoughts, we're going back and forth. And I just went, gosh, honestly, guys, I haven't heard anything about this. Like, this is just completely, and that's just the world we live in. Like, there's stuff going on all the time that I have no idea about until like well after the fact. And that's just the case. All TikTok trends, that's the case. But so I went out And I read that article. And the first thing I did after reading that article, no joke, was just go, yeah, but really? You know? Because my initial assumption was, hey, this thing they're presenting probably is actually the case. But this article made it sound like it wasn't. And so then I went out and I found another article, and it was like, hey, look, like, you know, we've actually got some good reason to believe X, Y, and Z are the case, you know? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and it all depends on what the claim is as well. The more extreme a claim is, that means you've got to do a little bit more digging.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I find so frustrating a lot of times when having these conversations. You know, it's like the claim that there are sometimes some things in the air that we're not really sure what the heck they are. Like, that's actually not particularly surprising. Like, that happens all the time for me. I can't tell you how many times I look up in the sky, there's something floating, and I just go, I don't know what that is. Could be a bird. Is that a bird? It's a big bird. It's not a bird.
Yeah.
What is it?
So why would you go straight to it being
aliens?
Well, obviously, it is a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. But why would you automatically then go from that? I don't know what it is, to that it's got to be from outer space. Why do people do that? We love a good story. We really do. And the more out there, the more mysterious the story will be, the more interesting it is, which is, we all like watching mystery films and, you know, that type of thing. It's the way our brains work, I think. We love a good mystery, and we like to embellish a mystery and make it sound more interesting, I suppose, than it actually really is.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point, and something that, again, like I came across, you know, not super long ago in person. I was standing there with a coworker, and we were talking about like the next task we were going to do today. You know, hey, are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And she goes, I don't really want to do number 2. And I said, yeah, that one kind of sucks. I don't really want to do that one either. But we could knock it out first and then have the whole rest of the day chilling, you know? She said, nah, let's rock, paper, scissors on it. And I said, why? Like, why? You know, we don't want to do it. Like, we already know kind of what the outcome is going to be, right? And she said, I just want it to feel like the universe was deciding for us. And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, we'll play, sure. Yeah. And funny enough, it just coincidentally happened where the rock, paper, scissors worked out the right way, you know, for us, and the way we had both already decided.
But when you oh, we're echoing a bit, I think. But when you do it, did the rock, paper, scissors, did you just do it the once and it happened or what?
Yes.
Right. So what about there? If it had gone the other way,
of course,
and you weren't happy with it, you'd go, let's do best of 3.
Exactly. We'd make it fit because we want that good narrative. We want that story because we do need that emotional component, you know. As humans, it is very much a part of us, and we shouldn't shy away from that, you know, on the skeptic side, right? Like we do need to tell a story too. You know, when we see something crazy up in the air and we're not sure what the heck it is, the alien story is very catchy. People like that. The thing, in my opinion, is the real stories, the ones we can prove, are even cooler, actually. Like, if you don't know who Mick West is, guys, you gotta go check out his work. Like, he has been debunking UFO sightings for years. He's awesome. He's got all these crazy cool stuff. And how he ends up debunking some of these is amazing. You know, like the process that he actually goes through is really, really super cool. And so that's why I think, like, we have the better story on the side of the skeptics. Like, we really do. You know, we just have to tell it better.
Yes, very true. No, I don't think I've seen that guy, but I have seen a few debunking videos
Mhm.
on YouTube and also on mainstream TV and whatever. And yes, they are quite interesting. Are the debunking videos? Like you say, they are just as interesting as the elaborate claims that people are coming out with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, again, we need to make sure that we don't shun the emotional aspect. That's something that I think is becoming important for me in these types of conversations, because oftentimes I feel like there is something like that that's keeping us to some of these claims. Some of these ones that seem really, really outlandish and going against just everything. Like you were saying earlier, it's not one piece of data. It's not one field of study that gets us to the conclusion that the earth is a sphere, of some kind, right? It's like we have so much good reason to believe this, man. So much good reason to believe,
Well,
light is. Go ahead.
well, prior to 1969, we had good reasons to believe that the Earth was a globe.
Yeah.
We could measure it. We could we could test it. We could do observations down here. But I think what actually clinched it for me, I was only 4 at the time, but I think what actually clinched it for me was a guy got in a rocket, went up there, looked out the window, and took a bloody photograph of it.
Yeah. That's the big one.
That pretty much did it for me.
That's the big one.
I was
That's the
absolutely
big one.
totally into the
Yeah.
globe from then on.
Yeah, yeah. Like that, that's pretty up there in terms of like what most of us skeptics really prefer. It's like,
Well,
I don't know, take a picture of it, man.
yeah, but then it gets ridiculous, doesn't it? Because that's when they turn around and say that they didn't go. It was all done in the studio. They even say that it was CGI, and CGI didn't even exist.
Yeah,
in
that's a
1969.
fascinating,
But they
right?
still claim it's CGI or it's been manipulated, and you'll never beat them in an argument, because whatever evidence you produce, they will automatically discount it and say, no, that's not evidence.
And so oftentimes it becomes frustrating in the pushback and the debunk, right, space, because there are certain pieces of information that I think are important and worthwhile to get out, but they are immediately jumped on and used by the other side to say, see, we told. So, like, for instance, my understanding of a lot of the pictures of space is that they don't initially come to us with color, but when we publish them in color. But it's not like we're just fucking guessing what the color is. Like, it is based on very specific frequencies that are picked up by the very sensitive, equipment on this object that is literally there. Like, it's there taking a picture, and it goes, oh yeah, man, I also registered this and this and this, and if sulfur's there, this is the color that it's gonna be. So we just put that. So somebody in the dishonest space, for sure, but I think a lot of well-meaning people too, unfortunately, will hear that and go, oh, all of the pictures from space are fake, they're artificial, they're colored. And it's like, well, they're not.
Fake. They're not fake. They're there to make the picture more interesting to the average person to look at, and also to break, like you say, the different spectrums of the different types of light and color that are in there. So it makes it a really interesting picture, rather than just this black and white boring picture.
Yeah, and again, that's an important detail, in my opinion. Not only just because of the fact that it is just the truth of the matter, right? And I just believe that that's important, that we always go towards that. But also because it helps make the story cooler, in my opinion.
Yes,
right?
it makes it more interesting, doesn't it? When you're looking at these fantastic color pictures of out in space, it makes the whole thing much more interesting. It's not there to deceive you of anything.
Exactly. And that again is is difficult whenever we are debunking, whenever we are trying to push back on a lot of these claims, is that there is going to be times where it's going to feel like, I don't know how much I want to mention that in a flat earth group, right? I don't know if I want to walk into a flat earth group and be like, yeah, so the color is added after the fact, like, because it seems like we're just never going to get over that roadblock of,
No.
it's kind of like when I've had this happen many times where I'm in a long conversation with a believer, and I'll be pointing out all these things. I'll say, this is bad, man, and this is bad, and this is not true. And then one of them will go, Christianity has done a lot of good things for the world. You can't deny that. I mean, made a lot of hospitals, man. And it's like, I'm standing there like, it's so frustrating because it's like, it is factually true, like a lot of Christian organizations have built a lot of hospitals, and it's like, well, you're going to deny that that's a good? You're going to deny that that's good? And I'm like, no, like it is good.
Christians,
but
good things. There's no every religious person can do a good thing. And if you go back several hundred years, 99% of the people on the planet believed in some sort of a religion. So that all the good they were doing there doesn't mean you can attribute it to the fact that they were Christians.
Right.
Christians didn't. Even now, Christians don't walk around the planet just thinking about God 24 hours a day. When they've got a job to do, whether if it's to do with science or medical, I think that's what they're concentrating on. So they can find new things, they can develop things. There's no problem with that. The God bit is the silly bit.
Yeah.
The belief in the God. That is the silly bit.
Yeah. And again, it can be frustrating when we stick on just that one point, right? Because it's like, oh man, that doesn't help us anymore. Like for instance, I've heard in some flat earth conversations about like, well, we haven't been back to the moon since for a real long time. And that kind of proves that we never went there, And I'm like, well, hang on a second. We haven't been back to the moon in a while. That actually is true, We haven't for a really long time. And there have been... Go ahead,
but the reason we didn't go back was the interest of going back had started to fizzle off. Obviously, it happened. They had several trips out to the moon. I can't remember exactly how many moon landings there was, but the public enthusiasm, which is what you had to keep going, had started to dwindle. And obviously, the funding of this is a massive amount of funding.
Yes.
And basically, the funding they were getting at the start of the space race to what they were getting when it finished was an absolute, I don't know the exact percentage of it, but from 100%, they went down to like 30% of what they were getting, what they were originally getting. So, plus, I mean, what else was there to do? Once they'd been, they brought some of the rocks back. They're still even today, they're still doing, tests on the rocks and that. What more was there to do when they got there?
We had accomplished what we needed to accomplish.
The job was done.
Yeah. Although we are now trying to get to the far side, which is really fun. That's cool to me. I just enjoy it. I think it's nice, But yeah, sending more people back up there doesn't exactly seem to make a lot of sense at the moment. But again, it's one of those places where it's like it can make me nervous to engage sometimes because I worry that this person is going to latch on to such a small point. Like exactly like the moment I said that, like, oh, Christians have done good things in history, you immediately were just like, oh my gosh, it's it's garbage. And here's all the points against that and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I totally agree. I'm right there with you. But what do you do because I know you've had a lot of these conversations. What do you do in those moments when you kind of sense that the person is being dishonest? Like they aren't willing to grant a point and move on or correct something they've said in conversation. Like have you had that? And like, what do you do, man?
Yeah, I have. And what I normally find is the person wants to just move on without addressing the point that I brought up. I've had this on a few
okay.
occasions. So I can explain something to somebody that they say, well, how does this happen? For argument's sake, one of the main things that you hear from flat earthers, if you're flying an aeroplane, you've got to be dipping the nose every 8 inches every mile, because it's 8 inches per mile squared. So basically, every mile you travel
For the
forward,
curvature.
for the curvature, you need to
Yeah.
be dipping your nose down. So I said, well, no, because that isn't the way that aeroplanes fly. Aeroplanes don't fly that way.
Okay.
If you're on an aeroplane, be it a light aircraft that I was flying, or even a jet, when it's on the surface of the earth, I've got a globe here actually from when I'm doing my little arguments. So when the plane's on the earth, above the earth, and it's flying off, it doesn't fly in a straight line and go like that and fly off into space, like people seem to think that that's what would happen.
Okay.
The reason an aeroplane flies is it's using 4 forces, which is thrust, drag, weight, and basically lift. So once you've got all them 4 in balance, so you've got the thrust of the aircraft, and as the aircraft is traveling through the air, the thrust is also the aircraft is producing drag. So once they become equal, the aeroplane will not go any faster and not go any slower. And due to the wings then give it the lift. Once it's got the amount of lift that it's going to have, and the weight of the gravity, the weight of the plane, it will stay in that particular altitude. And it's all to do with the barometric air pressure. So if you're in an airplane, you just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. We all know that eventually you'll get to what they call the ceiling, which is the maximum amount of height that aircraft is going to travel at. After that, it will literally just buffer along, and it will not get any higher up. That's the maximum height it'll go. So when you're flying normally, and you're say like for me, for argument's sake, when I was flying at say 4,000 feet, I get all them 4 forces into balance, so it will stay at that altitude. And due to the gravity of the Earth and the air being basically wrapped around the Earth, you've got what you call a barometric pressure. So I'm flying in an air pressure system, and that makes everything. If the air pressure changes, I will. If the air pressure increases, I would actually climb. If the air pressure that I'm in decreased, I would actually go lower down, because I would need to stay within that air pressure. So if I'm flying along at 4,000 feet, if I want to climb, if I lift the nose and just start to climb up, I'm now going to reduce my speed for lift. So my speed is off because I'm trying to climb. It's the same as when you're driving up a hill. You want to go up a hill, you accelerate, you put more power on. You might stay at the same speed, but you put more power on. If you don't, you'll just get slower and slower and slower. And the same thing happens with an aeroplane. So once you're basically all these forces equally, you will stay within the air pressure and literally follow the curvature of the air. But like the guy was saying, it's 8 inches per mile. So in a mile, I've only dropped down by 8 inches. And he says, well, you should be able to see that. And I've said, how are you going to see 8 inches over a distance of a mile?
Well, yeah.
You're never going to notice that. The curvature of the Earth is 69 miles or 60 nautical miles per 1 degree. So for me to see 1 degree of curvature, I've got to travel 60 nautical miles or 69 miles.
Yeah.
For 1 degree of curvature, you're not going to see it.
Yeah. Even at 120 miles an hour, that's still going to take you at least about half an hour, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be...
You're just not going to see it.
Yeah, it's not going to be something you really experience.
And I mean, it's like if you look at the size of the United States on here, if you look at the size of that,
right,
and then you imagine what the size of an aeroplane is,
right,
and then imagine what the size of a person is sat within that aeroplane, and they're traveling at 500 miles an hour. Now, I don't know what the distance is between across. Is it about 3,500 miles?
I was gonna say something around there. Yeah,
something around that. So if you're traveling at 500 miles an hour and you're traveling from here, in an hour, you might have only gone that distance.
Yeah.
How are you going to see any curvature there?
Right.
But it's like they can't understand the scale of the Earth that they actually live on. It's as if they can imagine that they're actually on like a beach ball or something.
Yeah,
and they say, well, when you look out, why can't you see the curvature going away? Well,
right, it's because you're tiny.
You're small. I mean, you couldn't even if
Yeah,
I was
you
to
could
get
put
a pen
it to
and put a
scale.
mark on there,
Yeah,
it would be the
it's still
size of a small, size of a large town,
right,
or even possibly a city, just by
right,
putting my pen dot on there. So then
right.
imagine the size of you in scale to that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just, perspective definitely is a big part of it. Which speaking of perspective, not really, but I felt like that was a good moment to transition. We have a caller. So we are going to grab Catholic traditionalist from Louisiana, is a theist, and wants to talk about ontological intelligibility. Well, hey, what is up, Catholic traditionalists? You're talking with Paul Kamish and SR. CT, you there? All right, we can't hear you at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return you to the queue for just a second. We'll take a look. We'll see if maybe something's going on, and we'll get you back. We've had a little bit of tech issues, a little bit of time issues. Do clocks and the shape of the Earth have anything to do with each other? I don't know if maybe that was what was doing it. Like I stopped believing in the round Earth, and then like my clock didn't work. I don't know, but hang on. I think we might have got it fixed. Let's see. Catholic traditionalist, are you there, brother?
Yes, hello there. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I am good. You're talking with Paul Kamish and SR. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, so you guys are atheists?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So why are you guys atheists?
Well, me personally, I'm an atheist because I've never been convinced that a God exists. So my story is I've never been religious. I've never held a religious belief. And every time somebody's tried to convince me that a God exists, I don't find it convincing.
Yeah, that's pretty similar for me. And just in this, I was raised Christian and did very much believe for a very long time. But yeah, ultimately, I don't see any good evidence for a belief in God.
Oh, you were Christian, and what religion?
I'm Methodist.
Methodist. Okay. So then you didn't see Christ rising back to life as being good evidence.
So when I was a believer, I did believe that there was good evidence to accept that a human being rose from the dead. Yeah, I did believe that. But I after investigating it further, I stopped believing that.
Uh-huh.
So I basically was, and I've said this a couple of times, but I was basically in a camp that is known now as like presuppositionalism. I wouldn't have said that at the time. I wouldn't have told anybody that I just accept that or anything, but I came to these conversations just accepting that God was real. And then that led to all these other things. If God is real, and Jesus Christ is the Son of God and part God, then yeah, all these other things follow. But I had no reason to believe that God was real to begin with. So
Yeah, and
if Jesus did rise 3 days later, then you would say, or is it your position that you believed at that time that he did, therefore you believe in God, but now you don't believe that actually occurred, and therefore you don't believe in God?
So at the time, I did believe that Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later, but that wasn't the reason that I believed in God. And now I would also say that not believing in Jesus Christ rising from the dead has nothing to do with my belief in God. I do not believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead. If he was even a single individual in history as opposed to an amalgamation of people. But either way, I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that a God exists for separate reasons.
Yes, what's the other reason?
It's the same with me. When I hear the stories or the claims from the Bible, I don't find them convincing just because a book says a certain thing. I don't find it convincing that somebody could be crucified, die for 3 days, and come back. I need far more evidence than just what's written in your religious book. Because if I've got to accept what's written in your religious book, then I would have to use the same level of understanding and also
criticism or lack of criticism for that belief in other religions as well. So what's written in different religious books, I would also have to accept that if I want to accept just the fact that you've got a claim in a book.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, even if a person's claims of a God is incorrect with regards to a book, that still would mean that there's not a God. So,
Correct.
Why
That's correct.
don't you believe that there's a God?
Because the same thing that Paul and I said, I mean, what you just said is correct. Like, it is very possible that Muhammad and all the crap that he said is just wrong, but a God still exists. That is true, CT. But ultimately, the thing that Paul and I said earlier is still applies. Like, we don't believe there is convincing evidence to accept that claim that a God exists. And ultimately, like, when we say God, when us, in this non-believing camp say God, what we're really saying is whatever your version is. We're not coming to the table with a conception that God must adhere to. That is strictly from the believer's side. So it's on the believer to tell me what their God is, to describe it to me. Because currently, like right now, I mean, maybe this will help, CT. So if you just say to me, hey man, Catholic traditionalist, I'm going to say actively, in fact, your God doesn't exist. I think there is evidence out there to disprove the Catholic version of a deity. If you came to me and just said, hey man, I just believe in a God, well, I don't yet have enough information to say whether or not I think your God does or does not exist. It may be the case that your God is logically coherent, but there's no like empirical evidence that demonstrates it. I would then say, not positively your God does not exist, but I would say your God has not been shown to exist. Does that help? I know that was a lot, man. I know that was a mouthful, but hopefully that helps a little.
Oh, okay. So you said there's not any convincing evidence, not any empirical evidence for a God. So,
there's slightly different nuance there, and maybe it's just on me for adding so much to it, but the empiricism didn't come in until well down the line. All we're simply saying to begin with, just the starting point, the reason Paul doesn't accept any deity that he's ever heard, the reason I don't accept any deity that I've ever heard, obviously we can't make a decision about things we've never heard about, but there is no convincing evidence for those things. Neither of us have stated it has to be empirical or not. I think empirical evidence is really, really helpful. It's really important, but neither of us have said it strictly has to adhere to that. Just in general, there's not convincing evidence for God.
Okay, go ahead.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay, so how's it with regards to you claiming that there's not any convincing evidence for a God? How's it that you determine that all facts, all states of affairs is not evidence for a God?
Because it sounds like, in that sense, what you're saying is that absolutely everything is evidence for the claim that we're trying to prove, which sounds like presuppositionalism, which if you're going to go down that route, that's fine. But then I have less commitments and less consequences in my system. I have less axioms than you. So I win.
No, you don't actually win, because the thing is, you do have more axioms in your view. Because in your view, you have to go ahead and explain everything.
Nope, not in the axioms. You're incorrect. You're incorrect. You're stepping into the wrong category. Hang on, CT. Hang on. But if you're going to go down a route that doesn't provide us any progress, there's no point in doing it. Okay, so if you're in the category of axioms, you're not in the category of explanation. Is that fair? I'm unmuting you.
Okay,
CT?
so I was trying to respond to what
you're going to respond to exactly what I just said, CT. You're going to respond to exactly what I just said, okay? You're muted. Axioms, explanation, separate categories. Yes or no? Hang on. Now you're unmuted.
You heard right now? Okay, so with regards to your claim, and I would like to show you how your claim is incorrect, okay? Please don't mute me.
I waited until you said that. I'll kick you off, dude. I don't give a crap. I know your script.
So do I.
Axioms and explanations are separate categories. Yes or no? Address it or you're gone.
So you're not going. So you're not going to let your audience hear me out.
They don't need to hear you. We've talked on here before, dude. You and I have had this conversation before on here, on this show. Grow up, address it. You're wasting my time. You're wasting Paul's time. Be a grown-up. Are axioms and explanations separate categories? Yes or no?
Yes. So with regards to
Did you say
axioms
yes?
and
Did you say yes? Did you say yes?
With regards to axioms and explanations, your claim was that when was
Nope.
put one
Nope.
with regard.
Stop. I want to make sure we're doing this right. It sounded like you said yes. Paul, did it sound like he said yes?
I thought it said yes.
Okay. Paul, is this a clear question? Are axioms and explanations in separate categories when we're discussing philosophical concepts? Is that a fair question? Does that make sense?
Yes.
What is your answer to that question?
I would say the separate yes. Am I correct in that?
CT.
Do you agree?
I do. Yeah, I do. And that's why I've stuck on this, because he said you needed to explain how all this stuff makes sense. But that's not the point of axioms. We've already discussed that what you're saying is you just already accept God exists.
But we know where we're going to end up with this, don't we? We know exactly where we're going to go with this. We're going to end up within the where do the lords of logic come from?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I know that that's where we're going, because I talked with CT on this, and everybody in the audience is already calling it out. So CT, one more time. It sounded like you said yes the first time, and I promise you, if you give a clear yes or no, I'll let you keep talking. We'll let you keep going, man. We will. But we gotta do this first, because this is a big thing that you said, and you won't just be an adult and admit it. Okay? So I think the answer is yes. Paul thinks it's yes. A lot of our audience is saying yes. Okay. One more time, and then I'm going to unmute you. In the context of philosophical concepts, philosophical discussions, which is what we're trying to have here, I feel like, axioms and explanations are separate categories. Yes or no? You're unmuted, a clear answer, and then you can go on wherever you want to go.
There can be a distinction with them, so yes, and also no. And let me explain why.
Go ahead. Explain. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so with regards to an axiom, it's a proposal, okay? So you can have an explanation with regards to, experiences and so forth. That's not necessarily a proposal. But with regards to the axiom itself, since it is a proposal, it itself, in order to have the axiom, it itself has to be based on something, which is logic and reasoning. Would you agree with that?
No. You're wrong here. This is the problem. I knew you were doing this. This is your problem, man. You're trying to add on something on top of the axioms that you actually accept. You're trying to say, here are my axioms, which are logic, which are the foundations of logic, right? So you've got A equals A is not A, no middle ground between those. Then you're saying, here's this other thing that is in the same category as those and actually explains those things, but is based off of those and is an axiom. That's not how axioms work. You're doing this wrong. That's why I had to stick on that. That's why I had to be such a dick about this, CT, is because I knew that your conception on this was flawed like this. You can't have those two things mixed up like that because they fundamentally butt against each other. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't. Because the thing is, with regards to what I just said, hold on, I'm speaking now. You asked me a question. Allow me to respond. So with regards to what
I'm not allowing you to respond. I'm
do
muting
know
you,
what
man. Yeah. Look, man. I don't mind passion, but I mind you being a dick. Okay? I got the fucking mute button. You called into this show. Your ass is on a show and I call in. You mute me as many fucking times as you want. Until that ever fucking happens, calm down with your little attitude. It's not cute. It doesn't help. Everybody here, again, everybody in the chat knows what you're saying. They know where you're going. They've heard it all before. It's not special. It's not new. So don't come in here waving your little dick around, acting like you're something special. Got it? You can talk, but don't be an ass.
Okay, notice everyone, I'm not calling him any names. I'm not being rude to him.
And you're not on the fucking show.
Because
You're not on the fucking show. Yeah. Yeah, man. Because
maybe try listening a little bit.
From the beginning, you weren't engaging honestly. And see, again, Paul and I have talked with you, bro. Like, I don't know why you think you're something new. Like, I know your name. I know your name, dude. I don't know why you would come in and just not go, yeah, man, look, here's what I think, and let's just have a conversation. Be real with us. Don't screw around with us. Don't waste our time. Don't go down a fucking script that everybody's heard before. I have these conversations all the time. All the time. Do you want to see what it looks like? What I read from? Nothing. It's fucking blank. I don't say the same things over and over again.
No, and I don't find this type of argument for a God very convincing at all. In fact, I find these probably one of the most least convincing arguments for a God, because all they're trying to do is send you down that far down until they get to a point where you can't answer it, and all they say is that's because of God. I knew where he was going to go with this straight away. Yeah. It was, where do the laws of logic come from?
Yes.
The laws of logic come from inside your brain by thinking. You know, if the laws of logic are dead simple. If I pick that up, let go, it falls down. And if I do it again and it falls down, when I do it tomorrow, the laws of logic goes, well, it's probably going to fall down. I don't need to know where I got that from. It's dead simple. And I find these type of arguments very frustrating. And they're not very convincing. And this is
so I have these I've had that conversation many times, not just with that individual, but with many people. And I've listened to many people have that conversation, people that are much more learned than myself, much more intelligent than I. And they've said things that make a lot of sense. That one about commitments and baggage or consequence. That's really important. In that conversation about presupposition, it is deeply, deeply important that we play the game of what are we committing to accepting? And what does that ultimately down the line lead us to have to accept or not accept? Okay? Because presuppositionalism is a hand grenade into the regular game. The regular game is you and I step up to the ring and somebody comes in and goes, here's archaeological proof of the walls of Jericho. And we go, yeah, well, that doesn't, I don't think you're interpreting that right. But also, like, that doesn't prove anything other than that there just was a city. It doesn't prove that, like, God or
that's all
Joshua or anything. Like, none of that shit's proof. But okay, and they go, well, Jesus attestation, and you're just like, okay. Well, so that's the normal game, right? The presup comes into that with a hand grenade and throws it in the middle of the ring and says, we can't even play this game because there's another game happening. And it's like, yeah, you're actually right. There is another game. We had to figure out how to set up this ring and invite all these fans. We had to do that before we could have this fight. You're totally right. So let's agree. We need a venue. We need engineers. We need the people, right? That's it. That's what we need. And they go, no, we also need X, Y, Z, maybe a Q in there. I don't know. Throw an F, throw one of those in there. And you go, well, wait, why? Why do we need all that to have this conversation? They go, well, you just do. You just have to. And you go, okay. So if we have to, here's all the things down the line that's going to lead to. And you agree that based on those other 3 things that we both agree on, that's wrong. They go, yup. Well, there you go. That's why your commitments and your consequences are a problem there. If you want to play that game, and I'm saying this to the pre-subs out there, CT, if you're still listening, I will talk with you again, but please take this advice. If you're going to play that game, play it correctly. Do it right. Be honest, because you can win that game if you have the correct construction. I don't think that construction exists personally. I've definitely never heard it, but there is a way to win that game if you play it honestly. I just haven't come across it yet, and I'm really doubtful that it does exist. Okay, that's my position, man. But don't try to play that game and then not do it. If you come in and you want to say, nope, you need another axiom, then bite the bullet, accept it. Accept that it's something that you're just saying, nope, that's how we operate, and I'm going to accept all the consequences down the line. But Paul, let's talk about something else. Change the subject for us. I got excited about that one. Again, it's my fault we were late today. I was sleeping in because I was time zones are a weird thing, and I don't think they should exist. That's on me. So I woke up very shortly.
Yes, it would be nice not to have time zones, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right.
Maybe if we lived on a flat Earth, that could solve that.
You know, right? Something like that, right?
Going back to that guy, I mean, it's a Daft Dawkins argument. That's all it is. And like I say, I don't find them very convincing. All it is a philosophical fight, and that's what it becomes into. And it's all to do with, you can have a philosophical discussion with somebody where the person is more educated in philosophical discussions, and he can be absolutely wrong, and he can beat you in an argument. But that doesn't mean he's actually right. It can be wrong in what the argument is, but philosophically, he can totally batter you. That, again, it's not convincing.
And that was the only time that I brought up empiricism in that conversation, was when I was making the distinction that there could, in theory, right, hypothetically, there could be a logical construction that is valid, that says, hey, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a God. It's like, yeah, that it could be valid in the sense that it doesn't violate our understanding of logic. It does actually, the conclusion does actually follow from the premises. It doesn't fall into one of these traps of fallacies and stuff. Here's the really, really super crucial thing, is that once we do that, we're not done.
Somebody just asked in the chat, how can I call from outside the US? I believe there was a link somewhere from.
Yeah, there's a link in the description, maybe, as well as there it is. It is in the chat right there. You can just give that one a call. I mean, what you were saying is exactly correct, because once we have the logical construction correct, we then have another step, which is we have to demonstrate the truth of it in reality. We have to say that there is some correspondence between this, right? Because it's logical to say, Like, a dog is a water bottle. All water bottles are purple. Therefore, like, dogs are purple. Like, that is valid in the sense that technically the premises lead to the conclusion. But that's not the world we live in. That's not the world we live in. Water bottles and dogs are very separate, you know? Like, so the idea that we can just have this logical construction and leave it at that is problematic. It is something that we need to make sure that we don't just stop there, right? That's only half the fight, guys. Like, good on us that we got it, but now we need to go demonstrate it. Let's test it.
Yeah, I just find it frustrating where I knew where we were going to go. It was going to end up being, where do the laws of logic come from?
Yeah.
Now, to me, the laws of logic can be perfectly explained naturally. If you've got a living animal that's interacting with the environment that it's in, it's for it to be able to survive within that environment. It has to have some concept of the environment that it lives in, and once it realizes that when I do this, it hurts, don't do it again. When I do this, I get some food, do that again. And that's how it builds up from there on in.
Exactly. And
you don't need to have something that develops. We call it the laws of logic, but it's not a law. We name it a law. It's not actually a law.
Right.
It's what we call it. That's all it.
Right. It is a description of the world around us, and would still exist even if all people stopped existing. We just wouldn't have the codification of it. Like, we wouldn't have these cute little flashcards and stuff, you know? And that's okay. That's fine. Like, it doesn't, that's good, in fact, because that seems to demonstrate, at least, you know, put a tick on the side of the truth of it, right? Like, yeah, it probably is the case, because it's going to be the case whether we're here or not, you know? If everybody got Thanos poofed out of existence at the end of this show, first off, just in case that does happen, it's probably not going to. And, you know, we don't know for sure, though. So go ahead and like the video real quick, just in case it does happen, because now, you know, you've got your like in. So, again, we don't know, probably not going to, but if it does, it might want to, you know, get those likes in. But if we all stopped existing at the end of this episode, you know, just all human beings everywhere poofed out of existence, like one flashcard and another flashcard would still be two flashcards. Like, they would still be two separate entities, you know, like that's not gonna change. So that kind of, again, puts a little tick mark on the side of, like, yeah, maybe this really is true. You know, it's just always going to be the case, as opposed to, you know, a lot of very, very silly things, like, you know, I don't know, the Bible. Like, is the Bible gonna still be true? Is it gonna be existing in the same form if all people disappeared and then came back, you know, through some crazy evolution process billions of years later? No, probably not. It's going to be completely different.
Religion, of course it would.
Yeah.
But I guarantee, like Ricky Gervais says, I guarantee all the science books will come back pretty much the same.
Yeah. Exactly. Like again, the 1 + 1 = 2 thing is still going to be the case.
It's still gonna be valid, yeah.
And if somebody comes up to me and says only in base 10 SR, I'm going to be like, yeah, fuck you. You're technically right. It'll be the same in all the other fucking systems too, man. Like, none of those things are going to change. Like, oh, hey, we got a super chat. I don't know, Wes, can you, producer, can you pop that up on screen? Yay! Felicia Nature sending up $10, saying $10 for putting up with precept nonsense. Logical argumentation isn't the be all end all. It's only the beginning of discovering truth. I completely freaking agree with that.
Yes, and I completely agree with that as well.
And that's something that is really, really important, right? So, okay, I'm going to tie this together, guys. Give me a second. We got another call. You might not see this connection yet, but see, that's what I do here. That's why I get paid the big bucks. So remember how earlier I was talking about there's an emotional component to these things, right? Truth is really, really important, But for that motivating factor, we have to make sure that we're paying attention to the emotional side of humans, because that's what makes us do stuff at the end of the day. Like, I can walk you through all the logic and all the evidence that you want, but at the end of the day, you have to care. And if you don't really give a crap that, for instance, like in the United States over the last handful of years, we've poisoned hundreds of thousands of children because we still have lead in our pipes, and we won't fix that. Even though it's really easy to do. You just take out the one pipe, you just put another pipe in. Like, I can show you all the evidence. I can talk to you about Flint, Michigan. But if you don't care, we're just not going to do anything, okay? So check this out. You got that on one side. You got the emotional component on one side that motivates people. But where does it start? Well, it starts with this logical construction. Because it has to be a logical construction for us to go, yeah, okay, this is something we need to look into more. This seems to make sense, right? This seems to follow based on these things. But the connecting piece there is that empiricism we were talking about. You start with the logical construction. From there, you investigate the truth of the matter related to the world around us, the demonstration that what we are saying here actually is the case. And then you tell people about it in a nice way that wraps it all together so that they fucking care. That's how you make progress, people. That's how you make change. And with that, we're going to grab another call. Paul, you want to talk to AJ, Ways to Human out in Texas? This is a friend of mine. She, her, an atheist, harmful ghost. Oh, no, wait. No, that's it. That's the topic. I'll just let you talk about that. Hey, AJ, you're talking with SR and Paul Kamish. What is up? Oh,
hello, AJ. Can you hear us?
That's okay. We did this earlier. Hey.
I'm
Hello,
doing good.
hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a delay, it sounds, but hey, AJ, what you got for us today? How you doing?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't hear the beep, so I wasn't sure if I was on. I'm good. What a great show today, huh? That was a very interesting call. Yeah, I'm sure you guys need some fun stories to bring down the blood pressure.
Yeah. Please help us out. Give us some fun stuff to talk about.
But before you get, obviously you've spoken to AJ before I haven't. AJ, can you just let me know whether you're a believer, a non-believer? I don't think I'm aware of you.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm a non-believer. I used to be a believer for a while. I was raised as an atheist, sort of, like non-believer. But then when I got married, my husband's family is very religious, and I kind of felt pressured into that. So yeah. But then I kind of deconstructed from that, and now I'm back to like full-blown outspoken atheist.
Heck yeah.
Good to hear it.
Heck yeah. All right. So what story you got for us? What are you telling us about? Some ghosts, some demons?
Yeah. Like how harmful these beliefs can be, even though they may seem harmless at first. But believing in ghosts and demons can have such a detrimental effect on how people see the world and how they experience things even. One example was when I was a believer, my father-in-law passed away. And so after the funeral, when we came home, I swore up and down that I heard his voice, like I heard him speak to me, right? He said a sentence that he used to often say when we were coming to the house.
Yeah.
So for years, I shared that story with people as, evidence that ghosts existed. But the more I learned about the mind and how the human brain works, it was like my ghost belief, sort of faded. And up to the point where now I completely don't believe in them, right? Because I don't believe in souls or anything like that. But I have had experiences with people where they are so deeply indoctrinated into that they believe that they're experiencing demons, not just ghosts, but like full-blown demons. one example is a couple of months ago, I was at a high school graduation party, right? And everybody in my family knows me because I have a lot of health issues and I'm really into like medical science.
Hmm.
So I know a lot about medicine, you know, and when something happens, they'll call me up and ask me questions. So I go to the restroom, and when I come back out, like there's two people run up to me, like, AJ, come help. Like somebody's having a seizure. So I go in there, and there's this kid, like, I don't know, 18 years old, and he's on the floor. Like there's like people around him, but nobody's touching him. He's just like laying there on the floor. So I come up to him, and he's, at first, you know, I was like under the impression that he was having a seizure. So we put him, you know, on his side, make sure that he's got like something under his head, that he's safe. But nobody else was coming close, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, why is nobody coming to help? And then I started hearing people saying that he was possessed. And I'm like, oh, fuck, man. Seriously, this kid's having a medical emergency, and you're like thinking that he's possessed. So all of a sudden, the kid starts to move, and I start asking him questions like, "Can you hear me?" Like, squeeze my hand. So he squeezes my hand. He holds onto my hand for a little bit. Then he gets on all fours, and he starts like shaking. And I'm thinking, oh, he's about to have a seizure. And then this other guy comes behind him, and he's like, he's possessed, be careful. And he's like trying to push me back, and I'm like, come, like I was just like, I wasn't scared. I was like, I'm seeing this kid having a medical emergency, and they're like pull him up and try to hold him back, and the kid starts pushing on them. So once things calm down, I start asking around like, what is going on? And they were like, well, they were drinking vodka, and they were smoking something in the bathroom, like something that nobody knew what it was. And so I'm like, well, he's having a reaction to chemicals. He's not possessed. But no, everybody just stayed back. They kept like telling me to step back, and I was like, mind your business. I'm not gonna step back. I'm gonna help this kid because he's like truly having an emergency. He's not possessed. So it's just wild, like how deep these beliefs go, you know. And it was like full of.
And sorry to cut you off. I just want to just jump in a little and say, I mean, it's because of stories like that and experiences that so many of my friends have had, that I do this so much, right? Because, okay, sure, look, at the end of the day, the 35-minute logical, philosophical conversation about the definition of axiom or whatever, like, okay, like, hey, great that we've all got the time to sit around and gaze at our navels so intently. I love it. Trust me, it gets me going. It gets me excited. But the tangible harm that happens on a regular daily basis to people, right? Stuff like that, or stuff like, the Jehovah's Witnesses not taking their children to go to a hospital when they need, medical intervention. The continued and repeated assault on the entire LGBT community, right? I mean, those are the things ultimately at the end of the day that are so harmful. And there's, again, it's not just like Paul and I have been talking about this whole time. It's not just with religion. This also happens in those anti-science spaces too. Paul, what are your thoughts on some of the harms that come from these thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Whereabouts did this happen? I'm assuming it's somewhere in the US.
Yes.
Yeah. I would be very surprised if I might get one person that may say that this person is possessed, but to have the majority of the people in the restaurant or the bar or where we are to all believe that this is some sort of demonic possession, I would find extremely surprising in the culture that I'm actually living.
Yeah. Just to clarify, it was like a family party in a private space, so it was just family and friends. So
right,
they all religious.
They all have the same religious beliefs, right? Yes, that makes it a little bit more clearer.
But even still, that likelihood, do you think that would, in that context, with that additional understanding, do you think that would still be something you wouldn't likely find, Paul, and where kind of your neck of the woods?
Find it, yes, this neck of the woods, I would find it very unlikely. Even religious people don't generally believe in demonic possession. That's not something I hear about when I'm talking to people of any religious faiths.
Yeah. And that it is something I was teasing you a little because earlier you were like, "Where'd this happen?" I'm guessing in the U.S. And it's like, well, thanks, man. It's good to know everybody.
Yeah, I do apologize for that.
It's perfect though. It's true. It's true because it's like we do have uniquely this problem.
It seems very extreme.
Yes.
When it comes into the religion in America, more than it does in other European countries. There's people in this country and other European countries that do have a belief, a Christian belief, but it doesn't seem to go to the same level as what it seems to do in America. It's like your faith healers. We don't have faith healers, or if we do, the general populace don't really hear about them. They certainly won't be given a platform on the TV to rubbish.
You're saying
on the other day with Kenneth Copeland, and that is how he's managed to be able to keep going and not being sued. I just don't know.
Yeah, well, it's the #1 country in the world, Paul. That's why. Sorry, AJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought it was funny that he mentioned that he asked whether it was in the U.S., but yes, and especially in Texas, it's a very highly religious area and very conservative. And
yeah, that's one. That was my next question. If it was in the religious belt.
So there tend to be quite there's quite a bit of Catholics, and especially within the people that we were with. So I was surprised that everybody was responding in such a way. I think once the police were called and they came and okay, that's another funny thing. As soon this kid was like freaking out for maybe like 20 minutes, right? And I was sitting like right there next to him, holding his hand and with my hand on him. And nobody else wanted to come close. All the other teenagers drove away. But even the adults were just kind of standing back, just watching. And when even as he was shaking, and when the police showed up, they sat him on a chair, and he did not have a single episode after that. He sat on that chair with his hands up the whole time.
Interesting. So he was already seizing, and then after the seizure was over, they sat him down, and he was very calm and still. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Okay. So my interpretation, just real quick, my interpretation would be that
go ahead.
He was tired. I mean, he was just. I've only seen a few people in person have seizures out of nowhere, and every experience that I personally have had, and all of the information that I've ever heard about with seizures, I mean, afterwards, even if it's a very mild one, the individual is very wiped out emotionally, physically. Like they can't move very much, so the fact that after this individual had just been through that, for 20 or 30 minutes, the fact that like, hey, we got him to sit in a chair and he was perfectly still for like an hour or so, it was like yeah, honestly, I kind of get that, man. That makes sense.
What I'd expect to happen, yes.
Right.
It probably is going to be
the way I interpreted it was, I don't think that he was actually having a seizure. Well, I have seen seizures before with several people, and they looked completely different to the way that he was.
Didn't you say earlier though that you thought it was possibly drug related? Was he taking some drugs? Did you say?
Yeah, that I think was a big part.
Yes, I think that he was just very, very intoxicated, but I don't think that he was having a seizure. And I think that once the police came, he realized how serious the situation was, and he stopped, like all that behavior. But to me, although it did seem like a medical thing because it was a reaction to chemicals, I think that he was just very intoxicated, not necessarily having a seizure. But I think that everybody just interpreted it as him having like this religious experience rather than demons or whatever it was.
I think that's a really good point too about like there's so many different factors. Paul and I both perked up when you mentioned they had been drinking a lot and then they went to the bathroom to smoke some substance. It doesn't matter what substance we assume they're smoking there, because I think most people would recognize that, like, yeah, the combination of those two things together has a greater potential to cause these side effects, But like, I mean, truly, imagine what the world must have been like for people 1,000 years ago. Hell, people 100 years ago, even. There were times that somebody just walked up to you, took a sip of water and just passed out and just died right then and there. And you had no understanding of it, So like, yeah, the fact that an individual would be, violently seizing in front of them, right? For whatever reason, whatever the actual ultimate cause is at the end of the day, drug use or biological conditions, like, and then just like 40 minutes later, that person stands up and just seemingly is perfectly fine. It'd blow your mind. I mean, you'd just be so confused.
Yeah, if you've got no idea, you've never seen a seizure before, and the first time you actually see it, I've seen people have a seizure, and it is actually quite a shocking thing to see for the very first time. Now, if you've got no concept of what a seizure is, it must be absolutely terrifying. So that's why it's a demon. This person is possessed. You can understand why they come to these conclusions if they hold these extreme religious beliefs that this is a possession. You've only got to read the Bible to see when somebody's been possessed. That it almost
is a lot.
It's describing a seizure.
Yes, and
you read that, and then you see somebody else have a seizure. You go, the book says this. You're doing that. You're clearly demon possessed.
And I'm so glad you said that, because there's a really, really cool series that the two Abdullahs did over on the Friendly Ex-Muslim channel. So Abdullah Samir and Abdullah Gondal, awesome guys. They created this series called The Epileptic Prophet. And they go into some really this is I'm pitching this for y'all to look up in your free time, but I'm giving you the warning right now. This is for hardcore nerds, okay? Most people are gonna be, it's gonna feel long, it's gonna go way deeper than you thought, but I'm telling you, it is such a great series. And they go through these descriptions that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, you guys. Like, and it really does sound like they're saying Muhammad was having a seizure, and then basically after his seizure, he was like, let me tell you the next verse of the Quran. So fascinating stuff. Seriously though, yeah, I mean, I completely understand why for so long in human history we had this misunderstanding of all of these things that were occurring, and still
we now have a better understanding now, and
that's good.
What is it? The story of Paul, I think it was, that he goes on this
Damascus Road,
and basically doesn't eat for like 3 days, and then he doesn't drink for another 3 days, and then he starts having visions, and it's like, well, excuse me, but was he hallucinating? And people are like, no, he was having visions of God. Hallucinating.
What's the difference between a vision and an hallucination?
I was just about to joke. The difference is that a vision confirms your belief and a hallucination doesn't. Like, oh no, it's just a hallucination. Of course ghosts aren't real. It's like, no, it was a vision. I saw an angel. I'm like, oh geez. Well, AJ, any other thoughts before we kick you off unceremoniously? I'm just teasing. We love you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I hope this call helped to bring the blood pressures down and relax a little bit.
It did.
It certainly did. Thank you very much for coming on and doing that.
Thank you so much, AJ. And definitely, you guys got to go check out Ways to Human. I was actually hanging out with AJ on her YouTube channel just the other day. We were chatting about all kinds of good stuff. So go check that out. In between all those other things that I tell you to go look up and stuff. Like you're not busy enough, folks. That's what I'm telling you. There's more things to do and read, and you're all behind. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. Look. I want to say one more time. I have no idea if Catholic Traditionalist is still watching. I want to say, hey man, call us back. Seriously, call us back. Have another conversation, especially one where I've had a little bit more time to wake up. That could probably help on my end. I'll take responsibility there. Again, I was late. But call us back and own up to the things in your worldview. Own up to it. I think that is the honest way to have these conversations. As an atheist, as a nihilist, okay, I own up to the fact that those two things right in and of themselves don't give you jack shit of a reason to be good. I accept that. I own that. Atheism doesn't say anything about you being a good or a bad person. Nihilism, the same. That's something else. And I own that. And I talk about that. And I stand on that. If you are going to stand on this presuppositionalist, axiomatic, foundational instantiation of whatever, blah, if you're going to stand on that, stand on that. And own up to the things that come along with that. There are answers. I don't think a single one of them is good from that side.
No,
but there are answers.
Yeah, in fact, instead of doing that, why don't you just come up with a good argument for why you think God exists? We don't have to go down these silly little rabbit holes of where does this come from, where does that come from. If a God exists, you should be able to. We all understand logic, so you should be logically be able to explain why you think that your God exists. And these silly little word games isn't the way to do it, because you actually never get to the point.
I agree. And there's so much more important things. Again, like AJ was talking about the tangible harm that's happening around us. You know, that stuff is evident, whether it is from this religious background or whether it is from these anti-science backgrounds, because it is not simply that the earth is flat. It goes into all these other things too. Now gravity isn't real. Now space isn't real. Now they're lying to you about, you know, the moon landing and all this nonsense. Like that is not. It's not good. It's not good. It leads to a lot of harm. And so that's why we do this stuff. And that's why, you know, we have all these wonderful shows. And we're here as much as we can. You know, we've got Mondays. We've got our newest show, The Black Free Thinkers. I am loving that show. If you are not watching that, you guys, you have got to go check it out. It is awesome. It is the newest thing out that we've got on Skeptic Haven, and I love it. The people involved are just amazing, and I'm excited to be doing that. We've got Secular Soapbox on Tuesdays and Thursdays, The Sunny Spot, two of our longest running shows here. We love that. We are always having fun conversations over there. Saturdays, we've got this show, The Global Atheist, and we are going to start taking some calls here and there because that is so much fun. And later today, at 4 p.m. Central Time, not Eastern Time, which was my issue earlier. It's Eastern and Central. They're different times. It doesn't matter. But 4 Central today, the Women Atheists Unload are having another show. Go check it out. It's going to be great. And then, of course, on Sunday, we've got our regular call-in show, Let's Talk. Make sure to come hang out with us. We're always got good guests. Paul, what do you got coming up, man? What's going on with you? How do people find you and hear more from you?
Yeah, you'll find my channel just by putting in Paul Camish. That's my channel. I've got loads of different things on there. There's things on there about flat earth. There's things on there about There's stuff on there about amateur radio. There's stuff on there where I was flying. I have a multitude of different things that I do, but I'm more into the religious side, the flat earth side, conspiracy theory side. I love that sort of thing. Most of my stuff is done like this. I go onto other people's channels and then I put them onto mine. I don't have a big following at the moment, so it's easier for me to come onto programs like this than it is for me to try and do something or on my own channels.
And speaking of, you've been hanging out more here with Skeptic Haven, right? You've been doing a couple of shows here.
I've done quite, I think this is my third one now, I think.
Yeah.
And the first one I did was with you,
yeah,
which was talking about flat Earth.
That was great, man. That was great.
Yeah.
And we're glad to have you on, man. Seriously, I always enjoy listening to you and getting to hang out with you. And this was a fun one. We had, I got a little excited at the beginning, but we calmed down near the end. Put those patrons back up, producer. I'm gonna shout them out and say nice things to them because they do help us stick around. So Paul Camish, thank you again, my brother. Karen Butcher, Puck, Helen Green, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozels, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sonny Shell, Aaron Colson, and Phil Calderon. Thank you all so freaking much. You guys are wonderful. You help keep this going. And everybody out there that is watching, whether you're live or whether you're watching after the fact, you keep us going too. Something as simple as clicking the like button does wonders, because there is only one God that we worship here, and it is the YouTube algorithm gods. So do the offerings, do the things you need to do. And by the way, I am going to be hanging out in the Skeptic Haven Discord for a little bit right after the end of this show. We are going to have some fun times. Paul, if you are able, man, I know it is crazy late.
No, it's only 20 to 8 here, so I can certainly go on that for half an hour.
Perfect.
And then I'm going to go to the pub and get a few beers.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Yeah, that's actually what I'm going to be doing later too. So perfect. Come hang out with me and Paul in the Discord, you guys. The links are in the chat. They're in the description. Come hang out with us. And otherwise, I don't know. Go out there and be skeptical. We'll see you next time.
Who are those guys taking over our show anyway?
Let us not forget our supporters. Thank you, Paul Camish, Karen Butcher, Puck, Helen Green, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozolz, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sonny Shell, Aaron Colson, and Phil Calderon.
Please join us in the general channel on Discord after the show. Link on the screen, and ask the chat if needed to help you find it. Later, kids, and don't forget to stay fresh.
Hey, for more of Rob the Lemon and I, Harry the Banana, comment in the comments section. Tell us what you thought of the show. Stay fresh.
Right, hope you enjoyed that. Nothing else to add to it. Just check out Skeptic Haven's channel. Subscribe to that. It's a brilliant channel. Anyway, I'm going to shoot off. I'll leave you with my song, and I'm going to disappear. And I'll catch you all on the next one.
Religion, is it true he's wandering? Virgin birth back from the dead. Questions swimming in his head. Worldwide flood, Noah's Ark. Big boat, but it's quite stark. Penguins, koalas, and kangaroos, were they packed 2 by 2? Is it real, is it myth? In the darkness Paul sits. Answers hard to pin down, seeking truth in this small town. Stories told since days of old, miracles in the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe, Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free, in the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game, finding peace or staying the same. Worldwide flood, Noah's Ark, its white star. Penguins, koalas, and kangaroos, were they packed 2 by 2? Is it real, is it myth? In the darkness Paul sits, answers hard to pin down, seeking truth in this small town. Seeking truth in this small town. Stories told since days of old, miracles and the legends unfold. Truth to tell, what to believe, Paul's heart on his sleeve. Stories told since days of old, miracles and the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe, Paul's heart on his sleeve. Stories told since days of old, miracles and the legends unfold. Truth or tale, what to believe, Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free, in the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game, Paul's heart on his sleeve. Late nights, thoughts roam free, in the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game, finding peace or staying the same. Late nights, thoughts roam free, in the shed or under the tree. Faith and doubt, an endless game, finding peace or staying the same. Books and questions scattered around, silence speaks without a sound. Answers come in whispers slight, in the quiet of the night.